how did Jesus Christ pass by in their midst?
Yeah,
maybe you want to read the
interesting?
passage for
Yeah.
them.
So Jesus is in Nazareth, and he is at the synagogue on the Sabbath, and he stands up to read, and he reads from a passage out of the book of Isaiah. And when he goes through that passage, it's in Isaiah 61. When he goes through that passage, he gets into the middle. Actually, he stops at a comma, and it says to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. Comma there. He closes up the scroll, and then he says, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." Well, this causes a big old ruckus because that's a scripture about the Messiah. This is my wife calling. Maybe I should answer her right now. What
Hey,
do you
Bobby.
I'm going to hang up on her. If I could figure out how to hang up. There we go. And so it's a passage about the Messiah, and these guys didn't believe him to be the Messiah. And so one of the things that ends up happening is it says, verse 28, so all those in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath and rose up and thrust him out of the city, and they led him to the brow of the hill on which their city was built, that they might throw him down over the cliff. There's actually only one place outside of Nazareth that has a cliff like this. And so you can go to the exact spot where they did this. It's really interesting. Then it says, then passing through the midst of them, he went his way. And you know what? I don't know how he did that. It could have been he just hid himself and passed through the midst of them. He could have blinded their eyes so that they couldn't see him. And now they're looking around, where'd he go? You know, that kind of thing. Or it could have been the kind of thing where he's being pushed along and all of a sudden he just stops, turns around and gives them the eye, and they all back off of him. In any case, there's a couple of different times where this took place, where things like this happen. Actually, there's another really cool one. It's over in John chapter 9. Let me read this to you.
It kind of seems to me that there's some kind of like transformation going on where he was able to walk by him like something you'd see in a movie.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. So what's happening? Actually, it's in John chapter 8, and Jesus is having a conversation with some of the Jews, and he talks about the fact that he's the I am out of the Old Testament. God had used a phrase, I am that I am. You tell them that I am has sent you, when he was talking to Moses. And Jesus takes that same phrasing, and in verse 58 of chapter 8, it says, most assuredly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Then they took up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. And so in that instance, it looks like what's happening there is he's blinding their eyes to him at that point. And that's kind of a cool thing. And then when you get into chapter 9, as Jesus passed by, it says in verse 1, he saw a man who was blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And so Jesus teaches them that it wasn't this man or his parents, but it was done so that the works of God could be made manifest, and he heals the guy. So it's really hilarious because all these people are all ticked off at him because he took the I am on himself. They pick up stones to stone him, and Jesus just walks through the middle of them, blinding their eyes. And on the way, he sees this blind man. They have this whole conversation. He heals the blind man, and then that blind man goes back and talks to some of these same people about who Jesus is. And so I kind of think it's along the same lines as what you have in John chapter 8, where he hid himself as he was going by. That's what I think. But the passage doesn't actually say. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That would have been cool.
yeah.